should hopefully come in a second then. Something pop up.
What happened?
Got it. Is it the screen? I'm seeing Leland's entire chair. Okay, let me know if you see that. Just fine. No, because you should be going to the WebEx, so you're fine. And what's down here on the screen is probably what's on WebEx, or because this is different than what's up there. What's on? What are you saying? I see you guys. Oh, now I see what's up here. Okay, that should be changing then. There it is. Content, we got it. Okay, so then are we ready to go? We are ready to go. Okay. Good evening, and welcome to the Stearns County Board of Adjustments public hearing for August 24th. I have a couple of announcements that I'll make at the beginning of the meeting, but we will first start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you could all join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
We can't hear any of you.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear Dave, but I can't hear Janie or Shelly or anybody else.
Yeah, my screen just locked up, and I have the county.
All right. Well, we'll start our meeting again when we have the result.
I can't hear you. I couldn't.
Yeah, I didn't do anything to it. I just put it up, walked to the other room, came back, and locked up.
Can you talk again, please?
Okay, are you hearing us?
I can hear you now, Bonnie. Yes, we couldn't hear you before.
Okay. Then we'll begin the meeting again. Dave, is your result? Okay, Dave, is yours?
I couldn't get up. My screen is all of a sudden locked up.
All right, Dave indicates that his screen is locked up. Do we need?
Maybe Dave better just reboot. Just come back in.
I'll go out and read.
All right, we will continue and.
I'll do that.
Okay, Dave, they're recommending that you exit the screen and try to log in over again. That should resolve your problem. All right, call to order. Good evening. Welcome to the Stearns County Board of Adjustments public hearing.
Bonnie, we can't hear you again if you're.
Okay. we'll let our technical people figure this out. Okay, and my muted button is not lit up.
No, you're right.
Can you hear me?
No.
You okay? Yeah,
No,
they're not hearing
They
you.
can't hear, I can't hear her either. I could hear before, so I believe you.
Okay, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. I can't. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Yes, I could hear that.
Okay, hopefully that'll be the last technical problem we have this evening. Good evening. Welcome to the Stearns County Board of Adjustments public hearing for August 24th. We will begin with the pledge. If you all could please join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Can you, those that are joining us, if you could please mute. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In response to COVID-19 and pursuant to Minnesota Statute Chapter 12 relating to emergency management, Governor Walz has declared a state of emergency. In response to the state of emergency, in accordance with the Minnesota Statute Chapter 13D.021, Board of Adjustments members and the applicant may participate by telephone or other electronic means. The meeting will be broadcast live. I have a couple of announcements to make. If you're this evening, members of the Board of Adjustments are appointed by the County Board of Commissioners with one member from each of the 5 commissioner districts, one member at large, and one member appointed by the Planning Commission. Just to notify everyone that this meeting, the testimony this evening is being tape recorded for the record. When you would like to speak as an applicant or as a citizen, please state your name and your address for the record before you give us your input. I'll read the variance request first, and then we will open the public hearing. As I'm reading the public hearing, if the applicant could be ready to address the board. The applicant and a representative will be asked to state their name and the address for the record. First, I will ask Environmental Service staff to provide a brief overview of the requested variance and the staff report, and if there's any correspondence that we've received regarding the request. Then I will go to the applicant and or their representatives, and will ask them to provide any input, corrections, or concerns that they may have. Once the applicant or the representative have provided their testimony, then the board will discuss the request and ask questions of staff or the applicant. Upon completion of the board questions, we'll ask if there is anyone with us by phone to speak to this request. If there is, we'd have that person make their comments, state their name and address for the record. When all that testimony is completed, we'll ask the board members for a motion to close the public hearing. Once the motion is passed to close the public hearing, there will be no more input from the audience, from the applicant or environmental services staff unless recognized by the chair or if one of the board members needs clarification. And that would complete our process moving forward. On the agenda this evening, we do have the board minutes for the July meeting, and those will be moved to the September meeting, so look for those when you receive your September packet. So our first item this evening is to consider a request from Michael and Celeste Walls, Sauk Rapids, Minnesota, from sections 5.1.2C3 and 10.2.11A 1A of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to construct a residential dwelling addition on a structure that is located within the shore impact zone and less than 100 feet from the ordinary high water level of a lake classified as recreational development. The said ordinance does not allow for additions to non-conforming structures that is partly within the shore impact zone and requires additions to be set back 100 feet from the ordinary high water level of a lake classified as recreational development. The affected property is Lot 20, Vogel's Shady Point, Section 4, Track 126 North, Range 34 West, Sauk Center, Minnesota, Sauk Center Township, and the property address is 40783 Sauk Lake Road, Sauk Center, Minnesota. And is our applicant with us this evening? Is our representative?
Yes, I am.
All right, we'll be back to you in just a little bit.
Thank you.
If staff could give us an overview of this application.
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Did you guys have a chance to visit the site?
We can do a roll call on that.
Please.
That would be fine. Dennis? Can you indicate if you...
Yes.
Jill?
Yes, and I did speak with the applicant as well.
Mike?
Yes.
Dave? Dave? Okay, we'll be back with him. Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And I did visit the site as well.
All right, thank you very much. A little background information on this property. The applicants currently own Lot 20 of Vogel's Shady Point. Vogel's Shady Point was platted in 1948. The property is in an R1 zoning district. The tract contains approximately 11,250 square feet of lot area. The applicants purchased the property in 2018. There's an existing 640 square foot seasonal residential dwelling with a 336 square foot deck that was constructed prior to the official controls. The existing dwelling is located approximately 46 feet from the ordinary high water level per the survey provided by the applicants. The applicants are proposing to construct a 208 square foot addition onto the existing residential dwelling. The proposed addition will be located 64 feet from the ordinary high water level of Sauk Lake. The proposed addition will not affect the building line of the neighboring properties. The property is in the Shoreland Overlay District of Sauk Lake, which is classified recreational development. Sauk Lake is on the list of impaired waters for nutrients and mercury in fish. The existing subsurface sewage treatment system was installed in 1998 and certified compliant in September of 2018. The current impervious lot coverage for the property is approximately 18%. The proposed impervious lot coverage when the project is complete will not change since the applicants are proposing to remove 2 sheds that total about the same area as the proposed dwelling addition. An alternative to this request is to replace the existing dwelling without expansion as it currently exists. Sauk Center Township, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, Sauk River Watershed District, Big Sauk Lake Association, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request. And there was only one correspondence which went out with you guys in your packet, so I'm not going to read that correspondence.
All right, thank you. And if we're back to Mr. Waltz, if you'd like to state your name and address for the record, and then share with us.
Bonnie, you're muted.
Thank you. Mr. Waltz, if you could please share your name and address with us, and then share any comments that you have about your application.
All I can say about the property, the picture that I'm looking at right now that has the property lines is slightly off. If you were to shift everything to the right, you can see a lot of those houses are splitting the property lines. I'm actually moving further away from property lines because of the way the building is constructed. You can see that better on my other plot, that one, yes. Other than that, the current construction that is there was never done properly. It is literally just a piece of plywood on the dirt, and then a house built on top of that. And I'm talking about just the addition, not the cabin part that is up on a foundation already. So regardless of what happens, that has to come down and be done properly, because it is totally unusable right now due to mold and moisture that is in there. Other than that, all my neighbors that I talk to on a regular basis are all aboard this. I know Kurt and Ivy put a letter forward. They have been very happy that I'm taking those sheds down and siding the house and the cabin. Other than that, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Board members, if you have questions.
Bonnie, you're muted again.
Board members, if you have any questions for either staff or the applicant.
Madam Chair, a question for the applicant, just to confirm. I believe there's only 2 sheds on the property. Do you plan to take both of them down then?
Yes, one has already been removed and the other one will be removed next weekend. The wood one will already be removed. Or
Okay.
the metal one has been removed, the wood one will be removed next weekend.
So just to ask it another way, there will be no sheds on the property once you've removed the 2 of them.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions?
Madam Chair, just a comment, Dennis Gregory again. As I looked at the building envelope, which is very, very small on this particular piece of property, there appears to be a number of other obstructions within that envelope. Couldn't quite tell from the symbols whether they were utility poles or the sewer system. If the applicant could just tell us what's all in that building envelope already, that would be helpful.
Yep. I'm assuming you're talking about behind the building, towards the road, that's in the dotted outline.
Yeah, the dotted outline with the number 20 in it.
Yep. One of those is a power pole. The X in the half circle and the other X, I believe that is my septic. And that other circle, I'm assuming is also the other holding tank that's up there. The one that the cursor is moving over right now, that is a power pole.
Okay.
And that the other mark is all where the septic is, where all those holding tanks are. So, and there's a couple of inspection ports right there.
So thank you. And so the comment I was going to make is there isn't really a building envelope left on this particular property, given the other obstructions that exist.
Yes.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments before we move to close the public hearing?
Dave Gamrod, I would have a question. Where is the well on this property?
Yes, there's a Sandpoint well. The Sandpoint well is actually right in that corner of the proposed addition and the existing cabin. It's right on the corner of the existing cabin is where the Sandpoint comes down.
Was there anything planned for that or change or?
That well house that holds the pump and everything will get redone just because it's currently rotting away. But yeah, other than that, if we do decide to ever make that a full season, which would be many, many, many years down the road, we would then put a well in. But for right now, just the Sandpoint, test clean, and gives good water. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Um, And any other comments before we close the public hearing and go to findings? Hearing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Dennis Gregory.
Second, Jacob Hawk.
All right, we have a motion to close the public hearing and a second. Anyone opposed to closing the public hearing? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Findings of fact, to construct a second-story addition. Excuse me, I'm on the wrong findings of fact. To construct a residential dwelling addition onto a structure that is located within the shore impact zone and less than 100 feet from the OHWL of a lake classified as recreational development. Number one, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Mike Kane, it is R1 zoning and additions are allowed in R1 zoning.
Does anyone object to? Jill, did I hear from you?
No, I agree with Mike's statement.
Okay.
Is there anyone that disagrees with yes for number one? Hearing none, we'll mark it as a unanimous yes. Number two, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls and any related ordinances, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, I believe the intent of the official controls is to not expand buildings that are there. And I believe what they're trying to do is just to remedy a poorly added addition and to make it livable. This is not a large addition. This is mostly just to remedy that fact, and it's just slightly larger than what's currently there. So I believe it is in harmony with the official controls.
All right, we have one yes. Is there anyone that disagrees with yes for number two? Hearing none, I'll mark that as a unanimous yes. Number three, the variance will be consistent with a comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, Goal 6, Objective 3, providing appropriate locations for seasonal homes. As Jill mentioned, this seasonal home is already in place, just replacing an addition that was poorly built, but also improving the location by removing two dysfunctional sheds.
All right, we have a yes for number three. Does anyone disagree with yes for number three? Hearing none, I will mark that as unanimous yes. Number four, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Mike Kane, I believe it is a reasonable manner to want to improve the seasonal cabin that you own.
Does anyone disagree with yes for number four? We'll mark that as unanimous yes. Number five, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, the existing cabin is already in the shore impact zone, and the building envelope that's available on this property would not allow for construction. So I do think it is unique to the property.
All right, we have a yes for number five. Does anyone disagree with yes for five? Hearing none, we will mark that as unanimous yes. Number six, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality, yes or no?
Madam Chair, the character will not change by this addition.
All right.
We have one yes for number six. Does anyone disagree with yes? Hearing none, we'll mark that as unanimous. Number seven, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations, yes or no?
Dave Gamrod, I think economics weren't in this discussion.
All right, we have a yes for number 7. Anyone disagree with that? Anyone disagree? All right, then I will mark number 7 as a unanimous yes. All right, then we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, I would move that we approve the variance that the applicant requested to construct a residential dwelling addition onto a structure that is located within the shore impact zone and less than 100 feet from the ordinary high water level, with the condition and the only condition that the applicant removes the 2 sheds that were existing on the property at the time of the application. Sounds like one is already removed.
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, before I vote or anything, I just want to bring up that we did get the water mitigation recommendations from the Stearns County Soil and Water Conservation District. And I just wanted to ask staff if the applicants also received any of these analyses, as when I did speak to the applicant, he did express interest in water mitigation techniques.
I don't believe they were giving to the property owners.
I was given something that stated some native plants along the shoreline would be beneficial, or some type of holding tank that could pump water back up to the top.
Okay.
Which I would do gutters and holding tanks and natural vegetation, all of the above in landscaping.
Thank you. I just wanted to be sure that they had that information too, but I don't believe it necessarily needs to be part of the variance application. So I second Member Gregory's move.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I will do a roll call for the vote. Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And I am a yes. With a unanimous vote, the motion carries for this variance request. And thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
And Bonnie?
Yes?
Again, I did visit that site.
All right, we'll add that to the record then.
Yeah, I couldn't find my mute button.
All right, thank you. The next item for tonight's meeting is to consider a request from James Smith, Inver Grove Heights, Minnesota, from sections 5.1.2C3 and 10.2.11A1A of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to reconstruct and expand a residential dwelling that is located within the shore impact zone and less than 100 feet from the ordinary high water level of a lake classified as recreational development. The said ordinance does not allow expansion to a non-conforming structure that is partly within the shore impact zone and requires new dwellings to be set back 100 feet from the OHWL of a lake classified recreational development. The affected property is Lot 5, Block 1 of Blonigan's Addition, Plot 2, Section 31, Track 126 North, Range 30 west of Holding Township, and the property address is 19434 of Two Rivers Road, Avon, Minnesota. And Mr. Smith, are you with us this evening?
James Smith, 7525 Dawn Avenue, Inver Grove Heights.
All right, thank you. And we'll be back to you in a few minutes after staff does their report. All right, staff?
Madam Chair, members of the board, can you take a roll call of who has visited the site and ask if there was any conversations that were had that should be brought to the rest of the board members?
All right, we'll do that. So roll call for visitation of the site. Dennis?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And I also visited the site.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. The applicant currently owns Lot 5, Block 1 of Blonigan's Addition, Plat 2 to Holding Township. Blonigan's Addition, Plat 2 to Holding Township was platted in 1970. The property is in an R1 zoning district. The tract contains approximately 14,767 square feet of lot area that is above the ordinary high water level per the survey that was provided by the applicant. The applicant was deeded the property in 2020. There is an existing 32-foot by 32-foot, 1,024 square foot residential dwelling with a 24-foot by 14-foot, 336 square foot deck. And let's see. Sorry, I just lost my paper here. Now I'm going to have to read it off the screen, so I apologize. The applicant, we went through that. There's also an unpermitted 14-foot by 8-foot, 112 square foot screen porch that was constructed in 1993, according to the Stearns County Assessor's records. According to the survey, the existing dwelling is located 51 feet to the screen 51 feet, and the screen porch is located 44 feet from the ordinary high water level. The subsurface sewage treatment system that services the existing dwelling consists of two 1,500-gallon holding tanks. The system was installed in 2012 and certified compliant in 2020. The applicants are proposing to reconstruct and expand the height of the 32-foot by 32-foot, 124 square foot residential dwelling with a 22-foot by 12-foot, 265 square foot screen porch. The proposed dwelling will be 51 feet from the 51 feet, and the proposed screen porch will be 43 feet from the ordinary high water level of Two Rivers Lakes. Two Rivers Lakes is classified recreational development. It is impaired for nutrients and mercury in fish. The current impervious lot coverage for the property is approximately 21%. The proposed impervious lot coverage when the project is complete will be very similar or less than what is currently on the property, since the existing screen porch will be removed from the calculations. An alternative to the request would be to replace the permitted dwelling and deck without expansion as currently exists on the property today. Holding Township, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, Friends of Two Rivers Lake Association, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request, and I do not have any other correspondence with regards to this request.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Walsh, if you would like to, or excuse me, Mr. Smith, if you would like to share with us your comments about your application.
Okay, the current James Smith, the current structure on there is basically falling down. The foundation is caving in on one side, and there is mold within the unit. And basically, we want to take the unit down and reconstruct a new unit to replace it.
Okay, thank you. Board members, do any of you have questions for either the staff or the applicant?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, a question for the applicant. You, from what I understand, you're not using the foundation or anything from the current existing structure. Is that correct?
That is correct. It'll totally be gone. It'll be all new construction.
So if that's the case, then a follow-up question. The neighboring homes are further from the lake, further out of the shore impact zone. If you are starting over with construction, why not move this structure closer to the road like the neighboring properties are?
Because the septic system would be pushed closer to the road, and the existing two holding tanks would have to be moved out and changed completely.
Looking at the survey and just to understand here, not to be argumentative, but it looks like there's quite a bit of room between the cabin and the sewage system. I don't know how many feet that is, but it looks like about 30 feet. And so you could move it somewhat. Was that considered?
No, that wasn't considered, but I don't believe it's 30 feet to the septic system from the cabin.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the measurements.
Oh, it's much closer than that.
Okay, we have staff doing some measurements right now, and so they can get back to us in just a couple minutes on what those measurements are. And staff, for clarification, we can be within, is it 10 feet or 20 feet that we can build with next to like septic and well?
The septic system, or in this case, the holding tanks would need to be at least 10 feet from the residential dwelling.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, question for staff. Even if they did move the building closer to the road, it would still require a variance. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, members of the board, that is correct. It would still require a variance because you're not going to get out of that. You're not going to get behind the building line or the 100-foot setback.
Thank you.
Okay, other board members with questions or comments? Okay, we'll just wait a moment or two for staff to come up with those calculations.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I have about 25 feet from that existing corner, the southern corner of that structure, to where those tanks are located. So you may, in understanding that you need to have a 10-foot setback, it could possibly move back maybe 15 feet at the very most.
And so, Madam Chair, thank you, Jamie. Madam Chair, a comment then, Dennis Gregory. The original cabin, the permitted original cabin, if I read it right here, was 51 feet away. The applicant is proposing 43 feet away. If they moved this entire structure 10 feet closer to the road, they would be no closer to the lake than the original permitted cabin would be. Thus the questions I was asking.
Okay, and if staff wants to comment on that?
Sure, Madam Chair, members of the board. The existing cabin is going in its same location. There is a deck that if you're looking at the survey, there is a deck that is currently on the structure or on this existing cabin, and the proposed screen porch is going to be further away from the ordinary high water level than that existing deck is right now. I realize that a screen porch is considered kind of part of the residential dwelling. So, I see what you're saying with that question, Dennis. But that's kind of where they're at right now with this. Could they move it back maybe 10 to 15 feet? There is a possibility to do that.
Okay, any additional questions for staff or the applicant?
A question for staff from Dave Gamrot, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
This is the only house that sits in their kitty corner. Is it possible that ordinance would say that it has to be, if it's redone, should be squared up with the rest of the houses?
Madam Chair, members of the board, we don't have any requirements that says it has to be squared. The variance that they're asking for right now is to leave that structure the way it currently is right now. I don't know that there's any sort of ordinance or anything that will state that it has to be squared up.
Thank you.
And from looking at it, I'm guessing that, you know, it was originally built that way to increase their view to the lake from two sides, which is understandable. But I understand what you're saying, Dave, about, you know, that it maybe would look more like it fits in with the neighborhood if it were squared up.
Yeah, that was.
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn. I'm just taking a look at some of Greg's notes here, and I wanted to ask Mr. Smith about the plant buffer on the shoreline and the stormwater infiltration plan or options. Have we talked about any of those things?
Okay, Mr. Smith, were you provided with those comments?
James Smith. Yes, we were. I was supplied with those information from Greg, and we had a discussion when he was out there regards to what we were going to do. And then we had Minnesota Natural Landscaping come out and help us design what we were planning. And I see on Greg's recommendations to also to expand that more beyond the overall high water mark. I have no issues with that. And then we were taking our plans are is to have the stormwater run off the roof, then this garage to run toward the road, and then within there it will go up, and there will be rock berms go around, and then it'll come back around and head toward the lake with various other rock berms and run through the bushes along the side for the filtration system.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions from board members? Hearing none, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn, I'll make that motion.
Mike Kane, I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. I'll do roll call. Dennis?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake? Jake?
Yes.
Okay, and I also am a yes. All right, so the public hearing has been closed. We're now ready for findings of fact. The variance request is to reconstruct and expand a residential dwelling that is located within the shore impact zone less than 100 feet from the OHWL of lake classified as recreational development. Number one, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, the property is zoned R1, and it is allowed to reconstruct a home or a seasonal cabin in R1 zone.
Okay, we have a yes for number one. Is anyone opposed to yes for number one? Hearing none, I'll mark that as unanimous yes. Number two, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls and any related ordinances, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, the ordinance that it is talking about here is it does not allow expansions to a non-conforming structure. They're replacing a structure and expanding it slightly, but its footprint will be smaller due to removing the deck and making the screened-in porch smaller. So I believe that that is in harmony with the ordinance, as they are actually, they're not making it any bigger, they're not impacting the land any worse, they're actually improving it slightly. So I believe it is in harmony.
All right, we have a yes for number two. Does anyone disagree with yes for number two? Hearing none, I'll mark that as unanimous yes. Number three, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, and I believe it's a no. Goal 7, Objective 1 is to evaluate land use changes. I think as I understand the comprehensive plan, I think the idea was that if it's a non-conforming structure and they're repairing or expanding it, or basically replacing it, parts of it, then it can stay in the same spot. But I think the comprehensive plan really indicated that if you're starting over, that you should, to the best of your ability, comply with the plan that's outlined. The applicant has the opportunity to move this further away from the lake, regardless of where it was currently located, and has chosen not to do so. And so I do not think it's consistent with the intent of the comprehensive plan.
Okay, and I'll pose one question to this. If we
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong,
Yes.
I believe that it is consistent, Goal 7, Objective 2, because he's going to employ land use and other techniques for natural resource protection, where in his plan he's already doing water mitigation techniques, and he is reducing the footprint of the building and its attachments. So I believe it is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
All right, we have one yes and one no for number 3. I just would like to pose one question to the board for consideration. Those that would indicate a no to this one, let's consider if we would say yes to this one if it were moved back as far as possible, like the 10 or the 15 feet that we measured out that it possibly could be moved. So that's something we can think about when answering this question. So I'll do a roll call for yes and no and any comments that people have in regard to this item. I'm going to say yes if the condition were that the house was moved back to as far as it could in regard to where the septic system is, septic and other utilities. Mike?
I'm in the same philosophy. Currently, it would be a no, but if they would agree to move the house back away from the water as far as possible, still meeting the requirements of the setback from the septic system, I would agree that it would be a yes.
All right, Dave? We'll come back to Dave. Jake?
Yes, agreeing to the stipulations that Mike and you had put forward to, yeah, then I would be a yes.
Sean?
I have to say that I would be a yes either way. In my opinion, the variance is exactly what it's there for, because it's a small variance and it's a request that's minimal change. But I see the point, and I'll go along with either way. Either way, I think it's fine.
Okay, and let's see, Dave?
Yes, I would say yes if it's moved back as far as possible.
Okay, and with that discussion, Dennis and Jill, do either of you, want to, change yours or comment on your vote?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, the condition that you're talking about is exactly the condition I was talking about. So I'm a no as it's currently proposed, and would be a yes if they moved it back as far as they could.
Okay, and Jill?
I'm a yes either way.
Okay, thank you. All right, number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Madam Chair, a point of order. I'm not sure I understand our vote on number 3. I understood what everybody said, but doesn't the vote need to be no if you want it moved back? Because the applicant hasn't agreed to move it at this point. So just a point of order, I think the votes would be noes or yeses, given the proposal of the applicant.
Okay. Is that what staff is indicating would be correct procedure?
That's correct. Unless you specifically have a condition that you're at this point.
Yes, you agree, or no, you don't with the current proposal.
All right. I propose then that we let the applicant comment on this one, and then we can take the vote a second time after the applicant has heard the discussion and had an opportunity to comment. So, Mr. Smith, could you comment now that you've heard the conversation of the board as to your thoughts on this?
James Smith, yes, I'll move it. I'll move it out with the closer to the septic, so I have no issue.
Okay, then can we specify that in question 3? Would that be appropriate, staff? All right, staff is indicating that we can take a vote on number 3 again and specify that it would be moved back.
Madam Chair, question for Jill DeLong, question for you and staff. So all of the plans that we have submitted, all the measurements and everything in there, does that make this application, invalid? Do we need to, what's the admin that's required for this? If we were going to stipulate that they need to change that kind of puts their entire drawn up plans in the garbage until they do actually get different ones. What's the admin here?
Well, I believe that we can go ahead and approve this with a condition because we're making it more restrictive than what was posted. Is that correct, staff, that we can go ahead, we could, if the board chose to approve this as and make it more restrictive without having to repost it?
Reposting would only occur if we were exceeding what we had
Posted. So in this case, moving it further back is less restrictive, and that's with the notice, so it's okay.
Okay, does that answer your question, Jill?
She faded out for the first half, but I think what she was saying was that that our requirements will be okay, that we don't need to put another notice out and we don't need to do another variance or anything. And she's giving me a thumbs up, and I can understand that, muted or not.
All right, thank you. So we'll vote on number 3 again. So number 3 is the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no, with the condition that the home is moved back to the 10-foot setback from the utilities, from the tank. All right. So let's do a vote on that again. Dennis?
With that condition, yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And I also am a yes. All right, question number 4. The property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Mike, I believe it's reasonable to want to improve your cabin.
All right, we have a yes for number 4. Is there anyone that disagrees with yes for number 4? Then I will mark that as unanimous. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, I think it is unique to the property. both the size of the lot and the location of the sewer system, where the cabin can be located.
Okay. Does anyone disagree with yes for number 5? I will mark that as unanimous yes. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, it is a residential area. It will maintain that essential character.
All right. Does anyone disagree with yes for number 6? I'll mark that as unanimous yes. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, I don't believe economics were mentioned in this discussion.
All right. We have a yes for number 7. Does anyone disagree with yes? Hearing none, I'll mark that as unanimous yes, and we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, a motion with 2 conditions. I would move that we approve the variance as requested by the applicant to reconstruct and expand a residential dwelling located within the shore impact zone, which is going to be less than 100 feet from the ordinary high water level. With the 2 conditions, the first condition is that the applicant moves the structure to within or 10 feet from the sewer system and other utilities. And the second condition, that the applicant mitigates the runoff as they have proposed in their application and as Greg Berg has recommended for both a native plant buffer and a stormwater infiltration swale, I guess.
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I will do a roll call for the remainder of the board members. Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So that is a unanimous yes. And if you have any questions about your application, you can check with staff during regular business hours via the telephone. So thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to item number 3. Is to consider a request from Brandon Smith, Sauk Rapids, Minnesota, and Jordan Smith, Maple Grove, Minnesota, from sections 5.1.2C1 and 10.2.11A1A of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to leave as constructed and altered a non-conforming residential accessory structure that is located less than 100 feet from the OHWL of a lake classified as recreational development. The said ordinance requires the alteration of a non-conforming accessory structure to be set back 100 feet from the ordinary high water level of a lake classified as recreational development. The affected property is that part of Lot 10, Johnson's Lake Shores lots on Big Watab Lake, Section 21, Track 124 North, Range 30 West of Collegeville Township. And the property address is 16684 Jasper Lane, Cold Spring, Minnesota. Are the Smiths present?
Jordan Smith, 16684, present.
All right, thank you. And okay, if we could have the staff report, please.
Sure, Madam Chair, members of the board. Can you ask for a roll call of the members that visited the sites and ask if there were any conversations that were shared between themselves and the property owners that need to be brought forward here tonight?
All right, we will do a roll call. Dennis?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes, and I did speak with Brandon Smith while I was there, and he gave me a tour of where the shed was and explained a little bit about what they were trying to do with the roof.
Okay. Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And I also was there. All right, thank you. And staff?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The applicants currently own portions of Lot 9 and 10, Block 1 in Johnson's Lakeshore lots on Big Watab Lake. Johnson's Lakeshore lots on Big Watab Lake was platted in 1924. The property is in the R1 zoning district. The tract contains approximately 17,424 square feet of lot area. The applicants purchased the property in 2020. There is an existing 820 square foot residential dwelling that was constructed in 1920, according to the Stearns County Assessor's records. There is also a 10 foot by 17 foot, 170 square foot residential accessory structure that was constructed in 1950. Both the dwelling and the accessory structure were constructed prior to the official controls. The accessory structure is approximately 60 feet from the ordinary high water level of Big Watab Lake, classified as recreational development. In March 10th of 2020, the applicants submitted a construction site permit to replace the non-conforming residential accessory structure. On March 12th, 2020, ES staff received building plans for the construction site application. In March 18th, ES staff did a site visit and could not determine the location of the east property line to determine if the accessory structure was over the property line or not. So ES staff sent an incomplete application on March 23rd. On April 14th, the applicants decided not to replace the structure and only perform maintenance on the structure. And so the CSP application fee was refunded to the property owners. On June 3rd, 2020, Environmental Service staff received a complaint that the accessory structure was replaced and expanded without a permit. And so on June 8th, Environmental Services staff talked with the applicants about the options to bring the property into compliance. And the property owners are in front of us today to leave as currently constructed and expanded the existing 10 foot by 17 foot, 170 square foot residential accessory structure. The structure has been replaced in the original location, but the overall building height and roof pitch has been altered and expanded. The property is in the Shoreland Overlay District of Big Watab Lake, which is classified as recreational development. Big Watab is on the list of impaired waters for mercury and fish. The current impervious lot coverage for the property is approximately 18%. The proposed will not change since this is an existing structure already. The existing subsurface sewage treatment system was installed in 1998 and certified compliant in 2020. An alternative to this request would be to replace the permitted accessory structure without the roof expansion as it previously existed on the property. Collegeville Township, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, Big Watab Lake Association, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request. There were a handful of correspondence that were included in your packet, and I got two more correspondence late this afternoon that I was able to print off so I can read them tonight. The first is from Richard and Joyce Leiter, 5570 County Road 141, St. Cloud, Minnesota 56301. To the Stearns County Board of Adjustments. We are co-owners with Mike Leyendecker of the property that is next to the Smith's garage that is in question. For the below reasons and concerns, we do not think the variance should be granted with roof pitch and current structures changes. We would agree that the garage was in need of maintenance. We watched for weeks as work was done on both the cabin and garage. We did not have any concerns at the point until a week later after noticing the roof framing was removed. We started having concerns on the scope of the project. In mid-May, we talked with several times to Nick Newman at Environmental Services, questioning the work being done on the garage. He stated that the Smiths had withdrawn their building permit from the reconstruction of the garage. He stated that it would have to stay as is with a flat roof, and that it had to only be used as a storage building garage. He told me to let him know if anything changed. To our surprise, the next week on our return trip to our cabin, we noticed the newly installed pitched roof on the structure, knowing it was not allowed without a building permit. On May 29th, we emailed Nick a photo of the structure with the new sloped roof. My two main concerns now are that all the water being shed off the roof was going onto our property, and the roof overhangs onto our property line. We already have an erosion problem on our road down to our cabin from runoff of the main road on top of the hill. We end up fixing the road continuously and have had to abandon the use of the boat launch at the bottom of the road. Now with more water on the property, what will happen? The roof now extends onto our property since it is so close to the property line. As per conversation with myself, Jamie Lucas, who stated that the foundation was less than a foot from the property line, but roof overhang shown in the photo shows an almost 20-inch overhang. He would be able to tell the exact number of the footing from property line. Rick has been in construction for over 40 years, and now that the roof leaking problem knows that the roof leaking problem could have been solved with rubber flat roof. We have one on part of our cabin, which is 1.5-inch pitch to it. Lots of buildings have flat roofs with no water problems. If they wanted a pitched roof, why was it placed to shed water onto our property, being the shed is right on the property line? Could it not have been sloped the other way, keeping the water on their property? Also, the reconstruction, to the extent that it was done, shouldn't a building permit been needed? We like to be a good, friendly neighbor, but have real concerns about how this roof was done and the impact on our property. Additional, we are wondering, what is the future use of the structure? Is it for residential use? My partner, Mike Leyendecker, told me that the Smiths said they had planned on using it as a bunkhouse. He told them he didn't want that. It seems pretty nice for just a storage shed with lakefront windows. Mike had also asked for a copy of the survey and a copy of the easement that they have. He has not gotten anything back from the Smiths. When we bought the property from Jim Daniels, we did not have any easement with the abstract. We were not aware of such document. We do not think this is an issue for this variance. We have no problem letting them on our property for maintenance of the structure. For these concerns, we don't think the variance should be granted with roof pitch as is. Respectfully, Richard Leiter and Joyce Leiter. And I do have one more, as I stated. Our name is George and Sharon Betzold. We live in Sun City, Arizona, 10916 Tropicana Circle. We are seasonal owners of Lot 7 of Johnson's Lakeshore lots on Big Watab Lake. We are completely opposed to the Smiths' altered residential accessory structure. They are way too close to the water and are not conforming to code. Thank you, Sharon and George Betzold. And that is all I have for correspondence with regards to this request.
All right, thank you, Jamie. If we could have any comments or clarifications from the applicant. Mr. Smith?
Madam Chair, this is Jordan Smith, 16684. Just wanted to make sure you can hear me.
Yep, we can hear you. Thank you. So if you have any comments on what you've heard so far.
Hello?
this evening.
We can hear you, Jordan.
Okay, great. Yes, our intentions for maintenance of this structure, once we actually got to actually performing maintenance, just, basically getting rid of the siding, we discovered there was a substantial amount of water damage, which is actually what you're seeing as the result of us having to replace a lot of those actual stud structure, studs within the actual structure itself. I do agree with what was said in the letter about a rubber roof. However, we didn't acquire this property until a couple months ago from our grandparents, actually. So what you're seeing is a result of many, many years of not replacing it from a flat roof to a pitched roof. Brandon, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but I just wanted to kind of clarify that. Brandon, I think you're on mute.
Okay, Brandon, do you have comments for us this evening?
He's indicating he does. He's struggling to get unmuted, though.
Brandon doesn't appear to be muted on my side. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes,
I do
we can.
apologize for that. I did want to also mention that as we were doing the demolition of the roof, we did notice that there had been several layers of previous roof, including a rubber roof that had disintegrated along the way. I'm not sure how old that was, but we had noticed that as well too. I think the snow buildup and also the proximity to all the trees near there helped to kind of cause the rot and the damage that was there at that time. In the process of trying to maintain the shed, we did try sandwiching 2x4s to it when we went down to the bones, they did not hold. And so that was the purpose of replacing those studs.
And I have a question for either of the applicants. When we were in process of reconstructing this shed, did you consider having the angle of the roof go the other direction? Can you tell me about that decision?
Madam Chair, this is Jordan. I actually came up with the building plans, and that actually did not even occur to me until this was actually completed, that it might be actually overhanging and partially into our neighbor's property. There wasn't any sort of other rationale for that. We just simply started to add that pitch to it and decided that that actually looked best with the cabin.
The original construction shows a pitch from back to front slightly, and we did not want to shed water towards the lake. Additionally, we also didn't want to create more of a wall facing our neighbor's property. In a sense, we want to create less of a sight line of here's our shed. We wanted to kind of minimize that look towards our neighbors. So we were trying to take our neighbor's sight line into consideration to show less of the door, less of an entrance. And the door is actually located facing our cabin. If we would have had the door facing our neighbor's property, the door would have been opening towards our neighbor's property, would have been across the property line.
And Madam Chair, I would also like to note that we did have a new survey conducted on the property while we were going through getting the process for the building of this structure. We actually didn't, the reason that we had the survey done was because of that question of where the property line was actually plotted on the east side. So what you're seeing here is actually the new survey that was conducted for us.
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, question for staff and the applicant. So that the shed as built I understand that the roof overhangs further than the original one, but for the actual side walls of the shed, are they in the same place as the original, or are they also different?
Yes, they are.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Yes, they are the exact same on the north, south, and east side. The west side is the only side where the studs would be increased in length to accommodate the pitch for the roof that you see.
I have a question for the applicants. When you, received the survey, was that before or after you began construction?
Madam Chair, that was after.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, question for applicants. The structure as it currently stands, how much material from the previous shed still remains in that structure?
I believe it would probably be less than 10%. Brandon, what would you estimate for the?
I mean, also considering the cement floor, but also the retaining wall does go up halfway through the back. That was maintained and kept. So I would say 20% maybe.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I didn't think about that.
So a follow-up question to that, again, for the applicants. And at some point in this process, when you realized you couldn't sandwich your 2x4s, that you needed to deconstruct the roof, did it occur to you that this might be going beyond maintenance and actually into construction, and that you had been through a construction site permit process, so you're familiar with that process? Did it ever occur to you that that you may have crossed the line as you were working on this shed?
With the conversations had with Jamie, who was helpful previous to that, our understanding was that the concern was the dimensions, that there was the potential to do a shed pitch with it. We're fairly new to doing reconstruction ourselves, so that those definitions were just basically misinterpreted with a conversation with Jamie on my part. So I did not consider that at that time that maybe we had crossed that threshold, as long as we maintain the integrity or the scope of the thing and not expanding the walls to make it a bigger structure, not making it closer to the lake. That was what my interpretation was with those conversations, which was a misinterpretation.
And then one final question, again, for the applicants. What was the cost of reconstructing or building the shed?
The total cost of materials as of this point?
Yes, please.
We are probably into material costs close to $5,000 with still additional costs that are coming to be.
And I said final question, but I guess I lied because I do have one further question. Okay. What is the intended use of this particular building?
When we had originally looked at this site, we had inquired about the potential of doing something like a place where people could stay. But after conversations with Jamie Lucas, we realized that's not in the allowed ordinances with the county. So the intent is for a shed.
Okay, and to the neighbor's point, why put windows in a shed?
To increase the aesthetics of it. The old shed, if you can see the pictures from it, ugly garage door facing the lake, looks like an old boathouse. We don't need to put a boat in there. We don't need to put a car in there. Why use a garage door if we're going to put small items in there?
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from staff before we close the public hearing? Or, excuse me, not from staff, from board members? All right, hearing none, I would be ready for a motion to close the public hearing.
So move. Mike Kane.
All right, we have a motion from Mike. Is there a second?
Jill DeLong, I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Is anyone opposed to closing the public hearing? Hearing none, I'll mark that as unanimous yes, and the public hearing is closed. We are now then ready for findings of fact. To leave as reconstructed and altered a non-conforming residential accessory structure that is located less than 100 feet from the OHWL, a lake classified as recreational development. And this findings of fact is the after the fact findings. Is the proposed use allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located? Yes or no?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, it's R1. Accessory structures are allowed.
Does anyone disagree with yes for number 1? I will mark that as unanimous yes. Number 2, is the variance in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the control of the official controls?
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, I believe that the official controls are, again, to reduce impact on the shore and to not make things worse than they are. It sounds like the applicant is just tried their best to reconstruct in the same footprint and not understanding that the roof pitch would make a difference. I believe that a variance would be in harmony with the general purposes.
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn, I'm going to say no, actually, for basically the same purposes. We really haven't talked about, excuse me, the water, the runoff, and the fact that this is the water from this pitched roof is going directly onto the neighbor's land and not being dealt with or channeled off some way. This needs to be part of this plan. Otherwise, it's not in harmony.
I'm going to agree with Sean. I'm going to say no. I don't believe it's in harmony for those same reasons that it impacts the neighbors by the water runoff. And, you know, if only 20% or so of the previous structure was really used, I really question whether this is brand new construction or reconstruction of a project. And when we're only 0.7 of a foot from the property line, you know, it really puts a burden on the neighbor. So I'm voting no. So we have so far 2 no's and a yes. Would some of the rest of you like to chime in as we'll do a roll call on this? Dennis?
No.
Mike?
No.
Dave?
No.
And Jake?
No.
All right, so having 1 yes and 6 no's, the answer to number 2 is no. Number 3, is the variance request consistent with a comprehensive plan?
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn, I'm going to say it is inconsistent for the very same reasons that we just talked about. I can't find, if I'm going to look for a specific site. Let's talk about the land use plan, growth and development goal 4, objective 1, to recognize and respond to the differences in community needs and character.
Okay. Any other comments on number 3 before we? All right, we have a no for number 3. Is anyone?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, I would agree with Sean's vote of no. I would also point out objective 7, or excuse me, goal 7, objective 1, evaluating land use changes and how they respond to existing natural systems, which would include the water runoff issue.
All right, thank you. We have 2 respondents to no. Is anyone opposed to the answer of no for number 3?
Okay, we have 2 respondents stating no. Is anyone opposed to number 3 as a no? Hearing none, I will mark that as unanimous no for number 3. Number 4, is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by official controls?
Madam Chair, Mike Hain, I believe it is reasonable for the owners of the property to want to reconstruct and make better the property that they got from their parents or grandparents. So I believe that is good.
All right, any other comments? We have a yes for number 4. Is there anyone that disagrees with yes for number 4? I'll mark that as unanimous yes for number 4. Number 5, is the plight of the landowner due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, I do believe the circumstances were created by the landowner. Whether misinterpreted or not, should have continued to work with environmental services to understand what they could and couldn't do, and who also could have helped them understand the water runoff issues that might be caused.
Okay, we have 1 no for number 5. Is there anyone that disagrees with no for number 5?
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, I believe that it was not caused by the landowner, as the shed was pre-existing on that spot, less than, however many feet from the property line, and they were just trying to replace something that was rotting and falling apart. So I don't believe that it was due to the landowner.
Okay, since we have 1 no and 1 yes, we'll do a roll call on the remainder. Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And I am a no. So we have 2 no's and 5 yeses, so the consensus to this, or the vote to this is yes for number 5. Number 6, will the variance maintain the essential character of the locality?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, I do not think that this storage building will change the essential character of the locality. So, yes.
And I'm going to say no for the fact that I think it's going to.
I'm going to say no for the fact that I think it does change the essential character of the locality, because now it impacts the neighbor's property more than it previously did. So we'll do a roll call on this since we have 1 yes and 1 no. Jill?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
And Sean?
Yes.
All right, now we have one more question. The need for the variance involves more than economic considerations.
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn, I don't think economic considerations ever came into the conversation.
All right, we have a yes for number 7. Does anyone disagree with yes for number 7? All right, we have unanimous yes for number 7. All right, we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, just a question, if I may, at this point. I think, at least personally, what I'm struggling with was the putting on the pitch roof, which slants the wrong way, and so on and so forth. Had they just constructed a flat roof, I think they wouldn't have needed the variance. And so I just want to have that clarified by staff, if you could. If they were to just put a flat roof on this structure, would they need a variance at all?
Madam Chair, members of the board, if they propose to replace what was currently existing before the construction started, that is correct. They do not need a variance to replace what was currently existing. So the same pitched roof that was on there, sloping towards the road, same height, same width, same length, everything without expansion can be done with just a construction site permit, no variance.
Okay, yeah, thank you. It's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure that I understood that because I might have had a different motion if that wasn't the case. So I would make a motion, Madam Chair, that we deny the variance to leave as constructed or reconstructed and altered a non-conforming residential structure, accessory structure.
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn, I will second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second to deny the request. I will do roll call. Jill?
No.
Mike?
Yes with the motion.
Dave?
Yes with the motion.
Jake?
Yes with the motion.
And I'm also yes for denial of the request. So your request is denied. You may talk with environmental services staff as far as your options of what you can do going forward. Please give them a call during business hours, and they can, help you with anything that you need help with.
Quick question for the board. If we were to mitigate the water runoff with a gutter system on the the easterly side of the structure into a water barrel, would that satisfy the request for the concerns of the water runoff from the top of the shed with this pitch?
I don't believe so, because the motion was to deny the variance, and the variance would be for anything that changed and the roof angle changed. Am I correct, staff?
So the request was for the pitched roof and for the alteration of the existing roof. So yes, that is what you had just mentioned, Madam Chair. That is what the request was for.
So you can work with environmental staff as what you can do for right now, but the way I see it is that you would need to replace the roof to mirror the previous roof. And staff is nodding their head. So you can talk with them during business hours to get more detail on that.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next item is to consider a request from Diane and Robert Leverance from Andover, Minnesota, from sections 5.1.2C2, 6.2.1A, and 10.2.11A2 of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to construct a second-story addition onto a non-conforming residential dwelling that is located ahead of the established building line. Also, to construct a residential accessory structure that will exceed the maximum accessory building area allowed for a lot size of 1 to 1.99 acres. The said ordinance does not allow additions to a non-conforming residential dwelling unless the addition is landward of the established building line. Also, the maximum accessory building area for a lot of 1 to 1.99 acres is 1,500 square feet. The affected property is Lot 4 of Block 1 of Kelvey Point, Section 29, Track 123 North, Range 30 West of Wakefield Township, and the property address is 17354 of Red Cedar Road, Cold Spring, Minnesota. And are the applicants with us this evening? I see them there.
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and we'll be back to you in just a couple minutes.
Okay.
All right, if staff could give us an overview, please. And first also, we'll take a roll call as to who was present. Dennis?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes, and I did speak with Diane.
Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And I also visited the site.
Fantastic. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. The applicants currently own Lot 4, Block 1 of Kelvey Point. Kelvey Point was platted in 1972. The property is in an R1 zoning district. The tract contains approximately 52,272 square feet of lot area. The applicants purchased the property in 2014. There is an existing 26-foot by 40-foot, 1,040 square foot residential dwelling with a 282 square foot deck, a 20-foot by 18-foot, 396 square foot guest cottage, and a 22-foot by 14-foot, 308 square foot detached garage. All the structures were constructed prior to the official controls in 1960, according to our Stearns County Assessor's records. The applicants are requesting a variance to construct a second-story addition onto the existing non-conforming residential dwelling. A licensed engineer has signed off that the existing foundation of the current residential dwelling can support adding a second-story addition. The applicants are also requesting a variance to construct a 30-foot by 45-foot, 1,350 square foot residential accessory structure. The proposed structure, along with the square footage of the guest cottage of 396 square feet, would total 1,746 square feet of accessory building area. Now, a property that is 1 to 1.99 acres is allowed 1,500 square feet with a 12-foot sidewall height and 20-foot building height. The residential accessory structure standards in the Shoreland Overlay District for lots between 1 to 1.99 allows for 2 buildings, so they would be fine with the number of buildings. The actual garage portion or the garage structure is not counted in the accessory building area because of the fact that they do not have an attached garage. So if you guys have questions about that a little bit later, I can go through that a little bit more. The property is in the Shoreland Overlay District of Bullfine Lake, which is classified recreational development. Bullfine Lake is on the list of impaired waters for nutrients. The existing subsurface sewage treatment system was installed in 2011 and certified compliant. The current impervious lot coverage for the property is approximately 22%. The proposed impervious lot coverage when the project is completed, as proposed, will be approximately 24.8%. An alternative to this request is to construct a residential accessory structure that does not exceed the 1,104 square feet of maximum accessory building area that would be allowed by ordinance. Another alternative that could be an option if the applicants chose is they could remove the existing guest cottage, and then that would give them the additional square footage that they were looking for. But that is not something that we can require of them. Wakefield Township, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, Sauk River Watershed District, Sauk River Chain of Lakes Association, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request. And we have not received any other correspondence with regards to this application.
Okay, thank you. And applicant, if you'd like to share with us your comments.
Okay, I think I'm good. My name's Diane Leverance. I think I'm supposed to give you my address, the 17354.
Yes, please.
Is there any other numbers I'm supposed to say? Sorry if I'm...
Nope, that's just fine. Go ahead and give us your comments.
Okay. I've actually been a part of this property since I was born in '67, and we owned the adjoining properties kind of to the northeast. That would be. It used to be Kelby Peninsula, and I was born in the house just up to the left. And so this started out as my great uncle's cabin, and I guess I took over trying to help maintain it when I turned around 20, and always have kind of dreamt of someday being able to add on so that we could kind of enjoy and just be able to yeah. So anyway, I don't know. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. We bought the property from the Esplin farm family right there, and they actually apologized for selling it to us. I think it says on the original deed for like $155 that it was just kind of useless, that you couldn't farm it. And yeah, so my husband and I bought it from my dad officially in 2014, and we've been slowly trying to make different improvements and stuff. We're the ones that upgraded and redid the septic system. I worked with the DNR. We've always had a boat landing there, and we are an environmental family that we're try to be conscientious of stuff. And so it's a DNR mat, they call it, that put in that helps retain the shoreline, but still you could, put your boat in and out. So it's considered pervious. Yeah, pervious. Yeah, I don't know if you have any other questions. It's just kind of maybe more than you wanted to know.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. If board members have comments or questions for either staff or the applicant?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, Jamie, you had mentioned that the other shed is not considered because they don't have an attached garage. It seems to me that in other various requests that we've had, that structure was considered an accessory structure. So if you can help clarify that for me and maybe other board members as well.
Sure. The ordinance states that if you do not have an attached garage on your home, you are allowed up to 900 square feet of accessory structure that does not count against your accessory structure area. And so in that scenario, the structure that they use as a garage does not exceed 900 feet or 900 square feet. So that structure does not count against the number or the accessory building area.
Okay, thank you, Jamie.
Yep.
And then, Madam Chair, again, Dennis Gregory, a question for the applicant. Diane, in your write-up in your application, you indicated that you wanted the pole barn to be 1,350 feet because it was a standard size. Are there other standard sizes that are 1,100 feet or less?
Well, so I met with the lumberyard and just kind of talked through what we were trying to do and what we were trying to fit in this space. And when I was working with Wakefield Township, she just said, it did make a difference, substantial difference in cost, because I had an odd size in there originally, and she said to do, what you need.
You're on it.
The standard sizes versus custom.
So you cut out for just a second, so let me make sure I clarify. 1,350, which is a 30 by 45. Is there not, as an example, a 30 by 30 standard size option for a shed, which would then be less than 1,100 feet?
Well, I guess, we're trying to maximize so that we can just do everything all at once. I didn't even, it honestly, originally it popped up. They have a design system online is how I started. And then, like I said, I met with the lumberyard and Heidi and Dave Knopfla. And I guess I didn't venture too far into that direction because it wasn't gonna take care of our needs.
Thank you. And then one last question. The neighboring properties, as I was looking at the neighboring properties, their accessory structures are have construction similar to their homes, and so they match in very well with the existing home and the residence. Wondering about your thoughts about a pole barn. I'm assuming a metal siding, and how that will fit into that residential area.
Right. No, that's a good question. I don't know, along 49. So if you went out Red Cedar Road and took a left, about a half a mile down, there's a red pole barn, and they did it really nice with windows and kind of a wainscoting on the bottom. And with what we're trying to do between the pole barn and adding on to the second story of the cabin, we'll have it all color coordinated and nice. I want it to look nice. I wouldn't put up something that's going to stick out like this, it won't look like on one of, we'll make it, we want to color coordinate it. That's part of the reason we're trying to kind of do everything at once, figure out what we want on the cabin, and then the pole barn will match, but it'll be wainscoting and windows and stuff. Which I don't know if it showed on that picture.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Jamie, I would like to offer some information because it does speak to Dennis's request. In the R1 zoning district, the exterior color, design, and or materials of a residential accessory structure shall be similar to the principal residential building on the lot. So basically, the colors and the design have to be somewhat similar to the the residential dwelling that is on the property. So that doesn't mean that they can't use like a shed like she's proposing. However, the colors will be required to match the residential dwelling so it does not kind of stick out like a sore thumb, if that makes a sense, Dennis?
Yes, I appreciate that. Their house is brick. And so that's a little bit of why I was asking the question, because if you have a metal building, even if it's brown, it won't look anything like the house.
Right.
And the colors shown in that picture of the shed they don't show up right for what the colors I put in there. But it would be color coordinated with the look of this, and even this look of the cabin that you're looking at, we're going with black windows, so it's very similar to this, just with more black. So the shed would have some darker colors on it as well. Do you know what pole barn I'm talking about? I don't know if you guys know Nathy's down, anybody along there, but it looks really nice, I think. I should have taken a picture of it.
Okay.
Okay, additional questions or comments from the board? Okay, are we ready to close the public hearing?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, just one last question.
Okay, thank you.
Have you considered any plan for water runoff on your property? Did you receive any information regarding water mitigation efforts?
I read comments on the packet that I got from Jamie, and we just need some more time to kind of discuss other things that we can do. We were having runoff, and when we redid the septic system and the boat landing, how we did that is actually helping capture some of the water, so it's not running as fast and eroding into the lake. It's going through the DNR mat. I don't know if you walked down by the water.
I did not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Come by if you want, and I can show you.
Okay, any additional questions? All right, then we're ready to close the public hearing. Do we have a motion to close?
So moved, Madam Chair. Dennis Gregory.
And a second?
Mike Kane, second it.
All right, is there anyone opposed to closing the public hearing? We will mark it as unanimous, yes. We have two choices of how we can do findings. We can either do them separately or do them together. My request would be to do them separately, but what is the wishes of the board?
I would agree with your thought process, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, I also think it should be separate.
Okay. Do we have one more board member that thinks it should be separate? That would be a majority.
I'll say separate as well.
All right, then we'll go ahead with separate. I will do the second story of the addition first. So the first findings of fact that we will be doing is to construct a second story addition onto a non-conforming residential dwelling that is located ahead of the established building line. Number one, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, it's zoned R1 and it is allowed to build a second story on a residential building in R1.
Okay, we have one yes. Is there anyone opposed to yes for number one? Right, then I'll mark that as unanimous yes. Number two, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls and any related ordinances, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn, I'm going to say that it is in harmony with the general purposes and intent of controls.
And does anyone have specific goals and objectives that would match that for the record?
Oh, I can, in addition to that, we can talk about land use plan, growth and development, goal 6, objective 1, to provide diversity of housing prices and styles, meeting the needs of residents of different ages, incomes, and lifestyles.
Thank you. We have two yeses then for number two. Is there anyone that disagrees with yes for number two?
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, this is for number two for the being in harmony with the general purposes of the ordinance. And I
Yes.
don't believe that it's in general purposes. The current structure is very close to the water. I feel like adding a second story will definitely change the use of the structure. It will change the neighborhood. I think that it is not in harmony with the intent of the controls.
Okay. Since we don't have agreement on this one, we'll do a roll call. So far, I have yes for Sean and no for Jill. Dennis?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
And I am a yes. All right, so we have 6 yeses and 1 no on number 2. Number 3, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, Goal 7, Objective 1, evaluating the land use changes and how they respond or potentially impact to natural resources. This is a second story, so the runoff from this structure will be no more than it is currently. So I do think it is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone disagree with yes for number 3? All right, hearing none, I will mark that as a unanimous yes. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Mike Hain, I believe it is reasonable to want to expand your primary residence space.
All right, we have a yes for number 4. Does anyone disagree with yes for number 4? Then that will be a unanimous yes. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Mike Hain again. I believe the structure has been there for quite some time, and there's really, they're not relocating on any additional footprint. It's adding on vertically, so there's no fault of the owner. It's all due to the circumstances of the location of the current house.
All right, we have a yes for number 5. Does anyone disagree with yes? And I'll mark that as unanimous yes. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, the residences surrounding the home are all, at least the ones I could see, were all multi-story. So I do not believe it will alter the essential character.
All right, we have a yes for number 6. Does anyone disagree with yes?
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, I believe that it will alter the essential character. It previously was just a seasonal cabin, and it's mostly hidden from the road because of the steepness of the hill. So I believe that adding a second story will change the character of the locality.
All right, we have a yes and a no for number 6. So the remainder will do a roll call. Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn, I would say that economic considerations really didn't come into the discussion at all.
Okay, so we have a yes for number 7. Does anyone disagree with yes for number 7? All right, we'll mark that as a unanimous yes. All right, we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, I would make a motion that we approve the applicant's request for a variance to construct a second-story addition onto a non-conforming residential dwelling that is located ahead of the established building line. And no conditions.
Madam Chair, Mike Hain, I'll second that.
All right, we have 2 yes votes on a motion to approve. I'll do a roll call for the remainder. Jill?
No.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And I also am a yes. So we have 6 yeses and 1 no. The motion carries for permitting the construction of the second-story addition. Now we will do the findings of fact for the second item, and that is to construct an addition onto, excuse me, my sheets got mixed up. Hold on for just a moment. To construct a residential accessory structure that will exceed the maximum accessory building area allowed for a lot size of 1 to 1.99 acres. Number 1, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located. Yes or no?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, R1, accessory structures are an allowed use.
All right, we have 1 yes. Is there anyone that disagrees with yes for number 1? Number 2, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls and any related ordinances, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, I do not think it will be in harmony. There is a reason for the building size limitation of accessory buildings. And I would point out to Goal 7, Objective 1, and looking at the potential impacts on natural resources. This is an impaired lake, an additional building, especially an oversized building, more runoff. That runoff is at the top of the hill, and likely will go directly to the lake.
All right, we have 1 no for number 2. Is there anyone that disagrees with no for number 2?
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn, I'm going to say that it is in harmony. It's a variation. It's less than 250 square feet over the line where we look at it. That seems minimal to me. It's acceptable to me.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll do a roll call. Jill?
No.
Mike?
No.
Dave?
No.
Jake?
Yes.
And I'm a no. So we have a 5-2 vote on number 2 as being a no. Number 3, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, I would same thought process as for number 2. I do not think it is consistent with the intent of the comprehensive plan.
Okay, we have 1 no for number 3. Other thoughts? Is there anyone that does not agree with no for number 3? Right, then I'll mark that as a unanimous number 3. Unanimous no. Number 4, the property owner proposes property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Dave Gamrod, it's reasonable to want an accessory structure. I think the only problem is the size of it. So I would say it's reasonable.
Right, we have a yes for number 4. Does anyone disagree with yes for number 4? Okay, I'll mark that as unanimous yes. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, I believe that this is being created by the landowner. They're choosing the size of the building, and there are other building sizes that would work within the restrictions of the ordinances.
Okay. So, excuse me, I didn't hear you clearly. So you are a no on number 5?
I am a no. I'm saying that the circumstances are being created by the landowner due to the size of building that they're choosing to.
All right. Thank you for clarifying. We have a no for number 5. Is there anyone that disagrees with no for number 5? Then I will mark that as a unanimous no. Number 6, the variance if granted maintains the essential character of the locality.
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong. I didn't see any big pole barns along that road that I drove on. The applicant did mention one about a half mile down a different road, but on that road I didn't see very many up there. So I think it would change the locality. So I am a no on that. It will not maintain the character of the locality.
And I am also a no, but strictly for the reason of that it's larger, not the style, but because that it's larger than allowed. So we have 2 no's on number 6. Is there anyone that disagrees with no for number 6? And we'll mark that as unanimous no. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Mike Kane, I don't think economics were discussed as part of this application.
We have 1 no for number 7. Excuse me, it'll be a yes with the need of the variance involving more than economics. We have a yes for number 7. Does anyone disagree with that? And I will mark number 7 as a unanimous yes. Then we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, I would make a motion that we deny the applicant's request for a variance to construct a residential accessory structure that exceeds the maximum accessory building area allowed.
All right, we have a motion to deny.
Dave Gamrod.
Is there a second?
Dave Gamrod will second it.
Okay. All right, I'll do roll call for the rest, and a yes vote indicates agreeing with denial. Jill?
Yes.
Dave, or excuse me, Dave, our motion, Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
No.
And myself, I am voting yes. Did I miss anyone?
Me, yes.
Okay. All right. The vote is yes to deny the construction of accessory structure that exceeds the maximum building area. And if the applicant has additional questions for staff, they can address that during regular business hours just by giving them a phone call, and they can help you with what you would be able to do in that location. Thank you. Our last item on the agenda for this evening is to consider a request from Ronald and Karen Valim, I'm guessing, Belgrade, Minnesota, from sections 9.3.11A3 of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to construct an addition onto an agricultural accessory structure less than 100 feet from the road center line of County Road 19, classified as a minor collector. The said ordinance requires a setback of 100 feet to the center line of a county road classified as minor collector. The affected property is 100.71 acres of the southwest quarter of southerly of the railroad, and the west 125 feet of the south 247 feet of the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 13, Track 123 North, Range 35 West of Crow Lake Township. And the property address is 43798 of County Road 19, Belgrade, Minnesota. And our applicants with us?
Yes, I'm Jim Anderson, and I'm neighbor to Ron and helping him. Ron, go ahead. Yeah, it is. Can you hear us?
Okay, yes, we can.
Okay.
All right, we will be back to you then in just a few minutes. If staff could give us an overview, please.
Sure, Madam Chair, members of the board, can you let me know by yes or no if you've had a chance to visit the site, and if you've had any information that needs to be brought to the other board members through conversations with the property owner?
Okay, Dennis?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Dave? We'll come back to Dave. Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And Dave, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, and I also saw the property.
We had a conversation. We were both in Vietnam at the same time.
Okay, so unrelated to the request.
Thank you, Madam
Thank
Chair,
you.
members of the board. The applicants currently own a 100.71 acre tract of record located just west of the city of Belgrade. The property is in an A40 zoning district. The applicants purchased the property in 1994. There's an existing 1,618 square foot residential dwelling with attached garage. The dwelling was constructed in 67, with the attached garage being added in 1987 that is. The tract also includes an 80-foot by 40-foot, 3,200 square foot agricultural accessory structure that was constructed in 1982. In 1998, a 102-foot by 60-foot, 7,200 square foot addition was added onto the structure. All of the existing structures on the tract were constructed prior to official controls according to the Stearns County Assessor's records. The applicants are requesting a variance to construct an 80-foot by 60-foot, 4,800 square foot addition onto the existing agricultural accessory structure. The proposed addition will be located approximately 84 feet from the center line of County Road 84, no closer than the existing structure is currently located. The property is not in the Shoreland Overlay District. Septic certification is not required as part of this request. The proposed addition will be a 16% deviation from the required setback. The current impervious lot coverage for the property is approximately 1.1%. The proposed lot coverage when the project is completed will be approximately 1.2%. An alternative to the request was to construct the addition onto the agricultural accessory structure in a location that meets the 100-foot setback from the center line of County Road 19. Crow Lake Township property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request, and I believe we included an email correspondence from Jody Tyke, the county engineer, that states that they have no comments because the addition is not going any closer than the existing structure. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. And if the applicant could share with us any comments that they might have?
I guess I'm speaking for Ron. We store equipment and rent the structure from them. And Ron was going to put in a larger door to accommodate some larger equipment that we store currently. And then he thought that it'd be a good idea to add on to have more storage also for the larger equipment. So So that's why they're putting in like a 32 or 36 foot door, I believe. On 32 foot door be on the west side of the structure. And it'd be a bifold type of door that would allow for large equipment to enter. So naturally, it's best to have it just one square building. So when you back equipment in, you have room to maneuver. I guess that's kind of long and short why we'd like to take and add on and to have it basically conform with the existing structures there.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the board members have any questions or comments for either staff or the applicant? Okay, and my only question this evening was going to be in relation to the people living right across the road, and I'm guessing that's the same Anderson group that you're building the expansion for, so they probably don't object to the expansion because of the view. I'm guessing.
We have two young girls, they're employees that live there. My son lived there up to about 3 years ago when he moved to my house.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from board members? I'm hearing none. Could we have a motion then to close the public hearing?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, I move to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Mike Hain, I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Does anyone disagree with closing the public hearing? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. We'll move on to findings of fact. And the variance request is to construct an addition onto an agricultural accessory structure that is less than 100 feet from the road center line of County Road 19, classified as a minor collector. Number one, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Mike Hain, it's A40 and agricultural accessory structures are allowed use.
Thank you. We have one yes for number one. Does anyone disagree with yes for number one? Hearing none, I'll mark it as unanimous. Number two, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls and any related ordinances, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, 931A is to preserve farmland for agricultural pursuits. This shed is clearly for agricultural pursuits.
So we have a yes for number two. Does anyone disagree with yes for number two?
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, I also agree with number two, but I also believe that part of the ordinance is regarding the distance from the center line, and as the majority of the existing building is already at that distance from the center line, that I believe it still is in harmony with the general purposes of the control.
All right. Anyone else wish to comment? Anyone that disagrees with yes for number two? Then we will mark it as unanimous yes. Number three, the variance will be consistent with a comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, goal one, objective one is to nurture and preserve a sound agricultural economy. And I think, again, this is in that pursuit.
All right, we have a yes for number three. Does anyone disagree with yes? Hearing none, I'll mark that as a unanimous yes. Number four, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, as Jill pointed out, the building that already exists, and as Mr. Anderson pointed out, having the building in a line allows for that machinery to be backed in and appropriately used. So I think it is a reasonable matter.
All right, we have a yes for number 4. Does anyone disagree with yes for number 4? Hearing none, we'll mark that as unanimous yes. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, the existing buildings really dictate where the next building addition should go, so it is unique to the property.
We have a yes for number 5. Does anyone disagree with yes? We'll mark that as unanimous yes. Number 6, variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality.
Madam Chair, I don't believe the character will change at all by adding an addition onto an existing building.
We have a yes for number 6. Does anyone disagree with yes for 6? All right, then I'll mark that as unanimous yes. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations, yes or no? I don't. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Dennis Gregory, and economics was not a part of our discussion.
And we have yes for number 7. Does anyone disagree with that? Then we'll mark number 7 as unanimous yes. And I believe we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, I would move that we approve the variance requested by the applicant to construct an addition onto an agricultural accessory structure less than 100 feet from the road center line of County Road 19.
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn, I will second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call. Jill?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, and I believe we have lost Mike, or excuse me, lost Dave. So he will not be part of this roll call. Yeah, I did, Sean. So we have 6 votes yes. So the motion passes. All right. Thank you. Does staff have anything additional for us this evening?
Madam Chair, members of the board, there is no other information we have for tonight. Just a kind of a heads up for this Thursday night. We originally had 5 scheduled. We will only have 4 because one is being continued to the following month for an additional structure that needs to be added to their request.
Okay, is that the one that was indicated in the packet that would be carried over?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board. It was the winter one that will be carried over into the following month.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from staff or from?
I have a question for staff. When we're doing the findings of fact, if we have a no answer, do we need to continue to do them because it would be an automatic no?
We have to, Madam Chair, members of the board, we do have to do all of them. So yes, we do.
I like the efficiency, Mike. The question that I have is, while we're all in love with these calls and all of the technology issues that we have, I think there is an opportunity now to go back to live sessions starting with September. And so I would at least put it out there. I think the discussion is better. I think there's less issues. We certainly could socially distance and not have more than X people in the audience so we could social distance, have other applicants waiting with masks on outside the room. I just think it would be a more effective and efficient meeting to have it live. And I think we've determined how we can do that safely in any number of other organizations. I'd like us to at least consider it for the Board of Adjustments as well.
And I
Madam
would
Chair,
be.
Jill DeLong.
Yep, go ahead, Jill.
I just have to say that I strongly disagree. I feel like the Stearns County cases have not dropped off at all. They continue to increase, and multiple members of the board are in a higher at-risk group. I would feel terrible if I were the cause of anyone to get sick.
I would agree with the first statements, though. I do believe that, to me, it seems a little better meeting when we can see people, when we can talk with each other in person rather than across a screen. I think it's more just to the people that are having the applications.
Isn't this a discussion for, maybe we need Shelley Benson's opinion on this? Can't hear you, Shell.
And I'm guessing it's probably ultimately a decision of the commissioners. But we could give them our recommendation or our request.
Mm-hmm.
Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep. Now
okay.
we can.
That's a decision of the county board. They will be discussing that tomorrow for meetings in September. I have asked repeatedly for both Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment every time they meet to determine the type of meeting format, because we need to notice so far in advance. So I try to ask ahead of time, and so far the answer has been no. For the same reasons Jill had stated, we're not in a declining situation, and I think there's still concern about potentially having people be susceptible to any of the issues that could come up. So, COVID and the flu season and everything else that's going to be happening this fall. So we will continue to monitor, and if I hear something different from the county board, I will let the Board of Adjustment and the Planning Commission know about any change in format.
Well, for what it's worth, I'm with Jill on this one too. It would be senseless to me to push it too early.
Well, we've heard from like 4 of the members. Maybe if we could hear from the other 3, that would give Shelley more information when the commissioners ask.
Mike Kane, I would be in favor of in-person meeting because I think we could socially distance, and I work in the real estate industry and we are meeting people in person. We're doing open houses and we're doing meetings safely. So I think with the right precautions, that could be possible.
Okay, and do we have one more?
We have one more person?
Dave Gamrod?
You're back.
Yeah, I lost power. I don't know why, but all of a sudden everything just went black. So
what are your thoughts on this, Dave?
I think that we could have meetings if we social distance and wear a mask. We could wear a mask either for the whole meeting or what everybody thinks is appropriate.
Okay, and what would be, we have one more person that hasn't chimed in. Jake?
I'm in favor for it. I'm a pastor of 4 churches, and we've been meeting since June, and we've been able to safely social distance, and I think that we can figure something out here.
All right, thank you. That gives Shelley some information to give to the commissioners that we, as a 5-2 group, we're in favor of it. So thank you, everybody, and we will see you then on Thursday evening. Same time, same place.
Same bat channel. Thank you, Bonnie.
How you doing?
Oh, and I was going to just mention to board members just for a moment, you might hear me clearing my throat or coughing. I do not have COVID. It is related to a medication that I take that dries out my throat. So I'm constantly having to drink something and I cough, and it's just, that's the way it is. So, but it's.
So thanks. All right, thank you. And is there a second? All right, we have a motion second. Anyone opposed to adjourning? Anyone opposed to adjourning? No one opposed, so the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yes. Oh, 5 people. Are you talking about our discussion on whether to do it in person or on the last item? Yes, unanimously. Okay. Okay. Thanks a lot. See you on Thursday.
Bye.
Bye. Okay.
Yeah, that one, because of the distance and the way we have noticed it, because we're noticing very general now.
Oh, okay.
If you looked at the notice, it said less than 100 feet.
Right.
So it was totally.
My only worry on that one was, and we clarified it with 10 feet from
Yeah.
the septic tank was a distance. You know what I mean? I thought we had to have something tied in for
It's really just
the permitting of
yeah,
the CSP,
Mhm.
so we're not
as long
just
as
saying
you
how
know it's
far are
10
you
feet,
going back?
You get to go 10 feet from the septic.
Right.
Then we're good.
And that's why I was fine with that then. I was just
Yeah.
worried about not having a
No,
distance
that's
to
a
tie
good-
it
it's a
into.
good
Right.
call.
And that's why, well, when we got to that question number 3, I thought, this one's gonna hang us up, because at the end, people are gonna wanna make a motion and
Yep.
make a change to it,
Yep.
Right.
but
so
they
let's
can't
go-
because we voted no.
Let's
Right.
discuss now.
Yep.
Right, before we vote no. So,
Right.
Yeah. That was a good option.
That worked.
And I think it was a good call by Dennis because there was room to move it back a little bit.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
any little distance counts, so.
It really does.
Oh, and I understand too the comment about, straightening it out so that it looks this parallel. And I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, that would look nice.
Yep.
But that's really the owner, we
There's
can't
nothing,
dictate.
there's nothing in the ordinance that says you have to build your home that way.
We
so-
Right.
can't control Kitty Wampus.
Right.
Whether it faces north or south or, Oh, thank you for that. Yeah. That's why if people wonder why I always carry a bottle of pop with me, it's because, and my throat gets so dry from this,
Then is it
from a
just this
medication
part?
I take.
It's not the other little black piece that goes with it?
No,
Does the puck stay?
nope, the puck goes with me.
Okay.
The puck's mine.
Yours.
It's my personal one.
Do these need to be cleaned or anything? or-
Yep. You gotta.
Oh, yeah, wait.
These are mine, so I can,
I'm guessing though, even with a 5-2 suggestion to go live, even with, that the board's going to say, if we have 2 members that are against it, even though the majority isn't, I guess if I were in their shoes, I probably would say that.
I've got people on the board that I think may not want to get together until the end of the year. I'm just being honest with you.
Yeah.
They may just say, keep it all online until January.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, for me, I would like to see the commissioners go first so that we can see how these cameras work before we move out to the other building. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's another factor. We're gonna move physically, but I don't have the social distance at the other building, which is a
Yeah.
bigger deal. I mean,
Yeah.
we'd have to meet down here.
Yeah.
and then our offices will then be out there. So it'll get dicey.
And this configuration hasn't even been
Tested
tested.
yet.
So,
No, I was interesting that that came up because while I was working in the living room, I was listening to Kenny's meeting the other night, him talking, and I thought that same question came up at the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
You know, can't we go back to in person?
Well, and I don't disagree that it's a nice idea to have people and the ability to talk and,
Oh, yeah.
and it makes a better meeting, but the reality is we really just don't want people getting sick, so we're just trying to be as prudent as possible. Yep. Lori, how did it go?
I had an applicant, so.
Lori's like, I got to just
I loved
hang
it.
out and take the minutes. So.
And when we go out the door and then realize my keys were here somewhere.
Conditions
We'll
and
see ya.
a
Yep.
little bit of weirdness, so you guys coordinate that and we'll be in good shape.
The one thing that I was worried about was
can you wipe this down here?
if it's recommended that
Thank you,
they
Bonnie.
do.
Yep. See you on
Bonnie,
Thursday.
Thank you.
That they do the, what did he have in all of his recommendations here? The native plant buffer?
Yeah.
You know, they can't come to us to get what is recommended for that. So, I mean, are we supposed to be throwing them towards